Senator Brown.
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm glad to be working on this with Senator Brown. He and I were Secretaries of State together, and I have actually worked with Senator Brown longer than anybody else in the Senate because of that relationship that goes back a number of years. I also like to be able to speak second because Senator Brown does such an expansive job of explaining what we're trying to do here.
But essentially, this is
a
focus.
Shortest
I've ever heard.
Well, me too. Me too. It was the shortest I'd ever heard Senator Brown speak as well. We were on the floor the other day talking about the importance of a country that focuses on making things again and how many policies have to come together for that to happen. I think when you look at the overall picture of the economy, we're really at a breakthrough moment where my belief is a decade from now we're going to look back in a lot of areas and think, how could we have made this much progress this quickly as we figure out how to do a better job of putting things together, of taking advantage of the opportunities that we have in front of us. The idea that this bill really focuses on is manufacturing hubs for high-value manufacturing industries like aerospace technology, biotech, pharmaceutical technology, automotive, semiconductor equipment. All of that could fit into that view of what we think can happen here. And it's really just bringing more of our tools together and creating a way that that can happen. A lot of the countries we compete with are really focused on state-sponsored entities, so it's very easy for them to put all this together and very easy for them to do whatever they need to, rulemaking-wise, regulation-making-wise, whatever else they need to do to be sure they're out there cutting through all the red tape and getting through the obstacles. We think this bill does that by using the public-private partnership model. You know, even at the Youngstown effort that Senator Brown was talking about, the University of Missouri is one of the places that's involved with them in talking about how to use engineering and other things that we have some unique perspectives on in our state. But we're excited about making things in Ohio as well, in West Virginia, in a country that makes things again. We're beginning to see a return to manufacturing. We've seen a 10-year decline, at least a 10-year decline in manufacturing, and beginning to see those numbers head the other way. The opportunities for our workers to compete, for our workers to use the kind of technology, even in yogurt making that Senator Brown was talking about, to where you may not be adding any new jobs when you do that, but you're securing every single job you've got and producing more in that facility in a more competitive, more effective way, and you're saving those jobs that we all know are so important to families. When a business goes out of business and those families lose that income, it makes a big difference. So we're looking here for things that ensure that the limited resources that the government has really pack the greatest punch. The workforce of the future, we combine efforts to reach out early to students, bring together industry, small business, large companies, academic institutions, in a way that I believe we both think meets today's demands better than some of the existing programs. I just think a lot of our programs, while well-intentioned and effective at one time, don't quite grasp how many things can come together now to make us more competitive and create more opportunities. And so, again, I'm pleased to be working with Senator Brown on this. I'm grateful to the committee for holding this hearing, and particularly pleased that Secretary Pritzker and the witnesses, the two panels we have today, are here to talk about what they think this legislation could do. Mr. Spiegel, on the medical device area, what percentage of the Seimens market would be in the United States on medical devices?
I think it's about 25+% of our medical device market globally. It's the biggest market in the world by far.
Mm-hmm. It's your biggest market, but you still 75% or so of your market is in other places.
Yeah, I think 75% is outside.
We do hear some of the people who are even more in this market that the tax is even a bigger thing for them because it's a tax.
If you're more U.S. focused and if you're more U.S. focused and, for example, you're not in Europe or in Asia in a big way, The U.S., of course, is a much bigger part of your business.
That has a bigger impact on what you can do and how you can do it and what your overall profit picture is. You mentioned the R&D. A lot of your R&D was in Princeton. Because of the centers in Germany that you described, how much work is done there that might be done somewhere else if there was a competitive hub environment like we're talking about? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, it's hard to say. You know, we spend probably $6 to $7 billion US dollars a year on R&D. We're one of the biggest spenders on R&D of any industrial company in the world, and we spend over $1 billion in the U.S. alone. To the point that one of the other panelists was making, if you go back to the years when we didn't have as much manufacturing here, we now have 130 manufacturing facilities. We spent very little on R&D. The R&D comes with the manufacturing. So if we push for these manufacturing hubs, like the investments that you heard that we're making around the Youngstown, the National Additive Manufacturing Innovation Institute, the more of these hubs that come in areas that we're trying to push, the more dollars we would put into it, the more investment that would come. And of course, R&D comes naturally. One of the reasons you want to do these hubs is get suppliers, customers, research companies, the government, schools, universities. We do a lot of research with universities and also with the national labs. So hopefully they're going to be attracted. They already have been. I think you heard from the numbers. So it's a natural place for us to put more R&D dollars.
Right. And Dr. Brewer, you mentioned that you were pleased that this wasn't really location specific, as some programs are. In fact, Chairman Rockefeller and I we're sponsoring the extension of the new market tax credits, which does actually give benefits to low-income areas. And Chairman, I was in Kansas City last week at a family-owned facility that had doubled their 70-year-old business in size using those new market credits, and it was in one of the areas that qualified. But specifically, we decided on this one, we'd let the dynamics of those hubs coming together be the qualifying factor. And I know in the case of your decision to be in Rolla, I just wonder how much impact it had that you had the science and technology and engineering school there, and either formally or informally, how's that advantaged the ability of your company to attract people and compete?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Of course it has helped. It's a very strong engineering school and very strong in the sciences, and having access to young students, idealistic and enthusiastic and low paid, is a very big advantage, of course. But I think it has a lot of secondary ripples also, because we work with that university and they have people that work with other universities, and so it becomes kind of a network infrastructure value in addition to simply the location itself. But, you know, back to the nature of the bill, it's not prescriptive. I think that's one of the genius things that you have done with this bill that you don't often see. And, you know, we had a lot of success in early days with the SBR program. At that time, it was a very non-prescriptive kind of a program across a lot of agencies, and was very instrumental in us developing our products. But, you know, in today's world, you know, where you're located, the size of your community, even the size of your company, has very little meaning to your impact back onto the economy. So size no longer, size and location, which is what you used to think of as the keys to business, are a whole lot less that today. And that, I think that insight is built into your legislation, which I think is a great step forward.
Well, I hope it is. And actually, I think that's a very good point about sort of what I described earlier as the breakthrough moment that we're in. The things that used to be defining in whether you can compete or not and where you're located and other things no longer in this moment are nearly as defining as they have been in the past. And bringing the right elements together, big or small, is what matters in how you compete, rather than the things that we may have thought 20 years ago were the key elements of how you compete. And, Mr. Chairman, I've used my time and possibly part of Senator Booker's time up, so I'll stop.